Hey, what's up? Dave with Brazos Valley Strength. And today we're going to be talking about cluster deadlifts and why I think they are one of the best tools for increasing specifically your 1 rep max on deadlift. Now, I think that's kind of a strong assertion from my side right now. I haven't been using these for very long at this point, but I think I'm seeing some pretty immediate returns for myself and all my clients. So I wanted to make this video for my clients too, but all of you guys out there, and maybe you can find something useful to incorporate in your own deadlift training and help your 1 rep max maybe immediately. So for some backstory here, like I said, I haven't been using these all that long. I've been programming them for my clients for, a few months, maybe 6 months at this point, but kind of rolling them out a little bit, slowly as I was kind of learning what was going on here. I picked these up, or I guess I started seeing them a little bit more in some other coaches programming. Some really, really good athletes like Rondell Hunt has been doing a lot of cluster deadlifts. And I thought it was a pretty good idea, obviously, to help incorporate or help practice a few more singles in people's training. But I think maybe one of the ways that we can distinguish these from another deadlift style, just saying full resets, is overall how we're actually approaching these and when we're doing them. So for the definition, I would call a full reset deadlift not quite a cluster, like kind of maybe a mini cluster. So with a full reset deadlift, you hit your rep, you set it down, you let go of the bar, stand over the bar, and then you hit your next rep, right? So we're using that to hopefully improve our ability, our practice, actually grabbing the bar, executing that first rep of a deadlift, which is pretty unique, that the deadlift does not have an eccentric portion. So much of our deadlift relies on our ability to get into that starting position really, really well and have confidence and have good timing there. My issue always with full reset deadlifts is just how hard they are. And I know after my last video that's a little bit ironic, but I guess my experience with them, I never really felt like they were getting the returns towards ability, confidence, just general execution in the deadlift that I wanted to see. If I was programming full reps and especially higher rep sets, like full reps for sets of 5, whatever, it just was really, really fatiguing for people. Sometimes tearing up people's grip, actually having to reset people's grip was tearing up their hands more than what just holding onto the bar would have been. And I felt in a lot of ways it just was not doing a good job of accomplishing what I really wanted out of doing full resets and just having that better practice with singles, with executing that first rep of those sets. So clusters are not a new concept. This is something that's always been around. I've tried them in the past, but stuff ebbs and flows in popularity. But they came back a little bit and it gave me a little bit more ideas on how to use these, specifically in significantly lower rep sets. And I would say doubles and triples. And I'm generally leaning towards doubles most of the time for people. So the difference here between just doing a full reset, standing over the bar and approaching the bar relatively quickly is that we can take our time between these sets. Or between the reps, I guess is a better way to say it. So if we're doing a cluster double, what it's going to look like is I approach the bar as normal, I hit my first rep, and I step away, undo my belt, get some chalk, fully reset, kind of go through that process again, and then approach the bar and hit it. I don't think that we need a specific time frame on how long that rest is. It should be pretty close, right? You should still feel like it feels like a set, like it feels like a cluster of deadlift reps. But if it takes you 30 seconds or so, I'd probably say less than a minute to hit the next one. It just shouldn't take that long anyway. Then that's probably fine. And then you rest fully before your next cluster of deadlifts, or how you program them. You could be doing just a few, one, a bunch of them. So these have started to give, I think, a lot more return for most people. And I did go through some growing pains with these. I was programming them a little bit differently at first for some higher rep sets and doing something like we're gonna do a set of 5 at 80% of your estimated 1 rep max. And just take as long as you need, right? But don't rest all that long, right? So you're gonna do 80%, 5 singles, hit the rep, step back, reset, chalk up, go and get it again. My feeling was that it was starting to get some of those negative consequences, I guess, towards the full reset stuff, where by the end people were just getting really gassed, even waiting a minute or so, and it was starting to become unpleasant so much that people just didn't really want to do them. Some of those later reps were getting so hard that just getting sloppy and just trying to get it up, and it really wasn't doing a good job of getting us to represent that single as well as we possibly could. So I moved away from that. So instead of doing, one set of 5 at 80%, now I tend to do more like 2 sets of 2, 3 sets of 2, 4 sets of 2, something like that, or 2 sets of 3 with a cluster. And generally speaking, I would say for most people, a good percentage for that rep range for the doubles and triples is probably somewhere between 77 and 82.5% of your estimated max. I'm doing 3 doubles at 80%. I think that's a really, really common way that I'm programming for a lot of my clients. It's kind of been something that I've gravitated to as far as like what sort of feels like a sweet spot, but that's 6 singles. It is a lot of singles. And especially those second reps end up being fairly challenging, but that's what we want. We want to go into those, especially second reps, but all of them, with a good sense that it is going to take a lot of effort for us to try really hard to execute things the way that we really want to, maintain our position appropriately, but we still have that confidence and even, excitement, kind of maintain some hype going into that second rep, and we can execute all of those things, all of kind of the personality traits along with the technical things within the deadlift that really can help us execute. So on top of that, I think it's a great opportunity for us to use some other variations that go really, really well with this. Pause deadlifts are an excellent choice to include with this. So again, we're going after that effort off the floor, that starting position, all of that kind of stuff. A pause deadlift in a cluster is a really, really good tool to continue to draw intent to the exercise. I made an old video on 1-1 variations or 1-2 variations to where you do the first rep of a set with a variation and then subsequent reps, remaining reps with no variation at all. This is again a really, really good spot for that kind of tool. If you have a variation that you think is really helping you on your deadlift, this is a great opportunity to include that in early reps within the set, step back, kind of reset, and then bring that feeling into your competition rep. So I think that they are surprisingly difficult. I think that it's pretty easy to overestimate intensity. You can definitely do these RPE based. You can do a cluster double at an 8 RPE, especially if you're doing ascending sets or if it's your top set of the day. What I'm tending to gravitate towards is a top set single. I've been posting a lot of those. Top set single on my deadlift, followed by percentages based on my estimated 1 rep max from that session. And then we can do outside of that, kind of within that structure, you can do only cluster deadlifts for your session. That's a really easy tool. You could do 5, 6, 7 doubles, cluster doubles, and that's a lot of singles. That's a lot of practice. I don't know that we need that much practice with the singles, and they get pretty challenging. So you may want to lean towards a lower percentage. But combining the cluster deadlifts and what we're really getting out of them with some higher rep sets, I still think that some of the mid to higher rep sets and deadlifts still have a whole lot of value for us. Kind of maintaining flow, finding a good rhythm, all the stuff that we pick up from our cluster deadlifts with percentage or with the good technique and the effort off the floor, we can still very much apply that to rep sets in general and kind of get a little bit more volume there in the deadlift. That's probably going to be pretty difficult to get us just through doing singles. So I think there's a lot of coaches, or at least a good amount these days, that program deadlifts with literally only singles. And I think that that's an okay strategy. But just from a practical level and trying to maintain some amount of volume overall with our rep work there, it can be pretty hard to get in the practice that we need, or at least the volume that we need to really feel skilled enough. And I think that's been some of my experience, that when I start leaning towards only singles and doing less reps, sometimes I just don't really feel refined. That sometimes those lighter reps help me feel things that are hard to practice, hard to get right at some of the higher loads. So following these clusters with some lighter pause deadlift work, just competition rep work, can be a really, really good strategy. So My programming right now, top set single, 3 doubles with the cluster, and then I've been doing tempo deadlifts afterwards, or you can do pause deadlifts. Again, really, really useful tools to help emphasize that intent and continue to practice making your position as good as you possibly can over and over and over again. So these, I think, are an awesome tool for just about everybody wanting to get better at deadlift singles. It's a very, very specific tool right here, and I think is easily thrown into almost anybody's program design. So if that video was helpful, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.